Come on in, pull up a chair and take a load off, because today I'll be paging through and reviewing Warhammer 40K Roleplay, Wrath and Glory, the core rulebook from Cubicle 7 Entertainment. Is this role-playing game sure to please fans of Warhammer 40K? Or if you purchase this, is Cubicle 7 simply going to face your wrath? Well, you're going to find out right after this. Howdy, 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 gang. Welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host here at the Gaming Gang channel. As I mentioned in the open, I am going to be reviewing Warhammer 40K Wrath and Glory in just a moment. But first, I do want to remind you, if you end up liking this video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already, and if you subscribe, ding that bell. Not only will it let you know when I upload videos such as this, it also inform you when my live stream, the Gaming Gang Dispatch, airs Monday through Thursdays, as I bring you the latest in tabletop gaming news. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all latest in gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. So I am diving into Warhammer 40K Roleplay, Wrath and Glory. This is the core book we're taking a look at. It is from Cubicle 7 Entertainment, written by Zach Dale Clutterbuck, Chris Handley, Eleanor Hingley, Elaine Lithgow, T.S. Lukehart, Dominic McDowell, Jonathan Woodhouse, and Ross Watson. The 381-page hardcover is available, including the PDF from Cubicle 7 for $59.99. You can get it in PDF alone for $29.99 at DriveThruRPG. Do want to mention the Gaming Gang is an affiliate of the One Bookshelf site. So if you are going to swing over to DriveThruRPG, please stop by thegaminggang.com first. Click on one of our banner ads. That way, if you happen to make a purchase, I get a little portion of that sale. And all those little portions really do add up and help keep the Gaming Gang website around. So let's swing on over to the other camera, because here I've got Warhammer 40K Wrath and Glory in all its glory. Do want to point out, first of all, that the fine folks over at Cubicle 7 Entertainment were kind enough to provide me with this review copy, but neither I nor anyone else affiliated with the Gaming Gang has received any other sort of compensation for me to share my thoughts about this rule book. It's important for you to know that. All right, we're going to dive on in. Do want to mention, if you follow the Gaming Gang quite a bit, then you already know I reviewed the original Wrath and Glory that came out from Ulysses. And I got to say, I liked that book, but there were a lot of problems. There were a lot of problems with information conflicting with each other. There were errors galore, and Ulysses actually lost the license for Wrath and Glory, and that went to Cubicle 7 Entertainment. I will point out, I am friends with many of the fine folks over at Cubicle 7 as well. And personally, right off the bat, I knew that this was going to be in good hands. So essentially what's going on here is, hopefully you've got some familiarity with the Warhammer 40K universe. But if you don't, this is just going to give you a slice of that universe. It is essentially the Gilead system, where there's been this great rift, which has basically separated the Gilead system from the rest of the Empire. So one of the interesting aspects about Wrath and Glory is that you can have a party of different player characters who in the standard Warhammer 40K universe, you would never have together. I think that's super cool. I also like the fact that you are looking at just a small sliver of the history of Warhammer 40K, because there is tons of background. If you were expected to figure that out, you would be in trouble if you needed to know all of it before you could dive into this game. So we're going to just page quickly through here, and I'm going to kind of touch on some high points. So in the original Wrath and Glory, when you were creating your character, you had to go with a specific archetype. And that pretty much broke down what your player was going to have as far as their character. Not in the Cubicle 7 edition. There are still archetypes, no doubt about that, but you also have the ability to completely create whatever character you want, whatever floats your boat. You're going to spend your experience points to create that character and simply go to town. Do want to mention the game mechanics of Wrath and Glory are actually created so they're not going to be really alien to Warhammer 40K players. So the game does use a D6 dice pool, and a 1 through 3 is failure, 4 through 6 is a success, and of course, depending on the number of successes that you would roll, is going to determine how well you've done. And of course, you may have situations where you need more than one success to actually succeed. So lots of information about the different factions. I will mention that this core book does go into a lot of the background that the previous edition did not. So I know one of the complaints that people had with the Ulysses edition was that everything seemed to be kind of glossed over. You didn't get a ton of information about the background, the different factions, so on and so forth. Here you are getting more info. I'm not going to say that it's exhaustive by any stretch of the imagination, because it's not. But at least you'll get a good feel for the setting, especially if you have not played Warhammer 40K, but you like the idea of, you've probably heard of the background, all the history of the setting. If you're really into that, maybe you're not into the miniatures game. You want to do a role-playing game that's set in that setting. Well, this is it for you right here. So here we've got the various different archetypes. And it is recommended that you do try playing some of the archetypes. As you can see, there's loads of them. But once again, you can roll up, create your own character, spend the experience points on whatever you want to custom craft them however you would like. Now, with these archetypes, do want to mention that this game also has what's known as a kind of a tier as far as the adventures. So you can have kind of different power levels in the game, and the mechanics actually allow for that. So you can have tier 1 adventures, tier 2 adventures, and essentially like looking at like a Space Marine. Space Marine's not going to be a tier 1. Now, someone who's part of the Imperial Guard, which, yes, I know it's not called the Imperial Guard in the latest edition of Warhammer 40K, but you know what I mean. They're not going to be a tier 4 character by any stretch of the imagination. So here we're going to get into, there's a bit of a discussion of the various attributes as well as skills. Now we get into the talents. And of course, all of these are going to have an experience point cost to them. So not only when you're creating your character can you purchase these talents, but as time goes on with your character, you can also be able to purchase new talents as well. So here we've got some information about experience and advancing your player character. Ascensions. Then we get into the rules of the game, and I gotta be honest, there aren't many to this. This is really a fairly streamlined game system, and I do understand there are folks out there who want way more crunch in their game mechanics than Wrath and Glory is going to provide, and I understand that. I know there are a lot of people out there who really loved the Fantasy Flight Games Warhammer 40K role-playing games, and there were a variety of them that focused on specifics within the universe, and that is not Wrath and Glory. As far as Wrath and Glory goes, you already saw. We just went through the basics of the game, the core mechanic. Like I said, you've got a dice pool, you've got difficulty numbers as far as how many successes do you need to get, and that is essentially it. You do have a Wrath die. You've got Glory as well. So Glory's kind of like bennies are in Savage Worlds, where you can spend Glory to kind of change things for the better for your characters. Then we got combat. Combat is essentially pretty easy as well. As you can see, you've got some attack options, some melee options, ranged attack options as well. Different combat modifiers, damage and dying, wounds. So one of the interesting aspects about Wrath and Glory, when Cubicle 7 Entertainment picked up the license to it, they didn't reinvent the game. They kept a lot of the mechanics that were designed by Ulysses in the game. So I know people were kind of surprised by that because they thought, oh, well, obviously enough, they're going to just kind of convert the game over to, say, the same kind of D100 system, percentile dice system that Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay utilizes, but that is not the case. That is not what happened here. It's still a D6 pool. So we're looking at all the various different weapons and equipment, various different gear. There's quite a lot of it in here. As you can see, this game book is, off the top of my head, I don't recall the exact number of pages the Ulysses edition had, but I know it was not 381. I do believe it was somewhere in the vicinity of about 250 to maybe 280, because this game book is way larger, has a way higher page count than the Ulysses edition. Now, one of the concerns people had when the license moved over to Cubicle 7 was, what kind of support would this game receive? Because it's one thing to have a nice core book, all the different rules for you to use, but there are loads and loads of gamers out there who like to have pre-generated adventures. They want adventures that they can use, adventures that are already written, that they can modify or play as written. And that was one of the things that Ulysses didn't do very well, was provide any sort of further support as far as adventures for Warhammer 40K. That has not been the case with Cubicle 7. Now, I know there are people out there who would like to see more adventures, more supplemental material come out for Wrath and Glory from C7, but we have seen a decent amount. And there's actually the free adventure to introduce you to Wrath and Glory is actually really, really good. So, and it is absolutely free. And I would definitely recommend anyone who's considering checking out this new edition of Wrath and Glory, the official edition now, to check out the beginning adventure, which I want to say off the top of my head is called Graveyard Shift. And no, it's not written by Stephen King. But as you can see, we've got a bunch of information about psychers, various different aspects and schools of psychic abilities. Now we get into the Gilead system. So as you notice, we had quite a bit of setting information to open the book. Now we've got a bunch of information about the system itself. And as I mentioned before, this isn't an entire sector. This is simply a system. I like the artwork throughout the book. All of this artwork, as far as I could see, was new. Not a bunch of artwork that has been recycled from the Ulysses edition. So we get a bit of a bestiary here as well, with various different NPCs also. There you go. The Astra Militarum used to be called the Imperial Guard. That's how I always refer to it. I have to be very, very honest. I have not played Warhammer 40K in a long, long time. I actually didn't play it that much when it originally came out. I played a lot of Epic back in the day when that first arrived. I did paint up a good amount of Warhammer 40K, Space Marines and so on and so forth, but I just never really got to game with them much. So we get a nice bestiary. We get a pretty decent amount of NPCs and possible adversaries to be able to utilize. So one of the aspects of Wrath and Glory I thought was pretty cool too is you could conceivably have a group of player characters that consist of Eldar and orcs and humans all together, because essentially what they're trying to do is they are trying to survive the forces of chaos. The forces of chaos is out to get all of them. So it would not be unusual for the Imperials, as crazy as it sounds, to team up with the Xenos. All right, now we get some character sheets at the end. List of keywords. That's something else that this game utilizes too. It is big on keywords, kind of like tags, just like Warhammer 40K. So talking about some of the different keywords. And we get the index as well. And then we get an ad for Warhammer Age of Sigmar Soulbound, which Sammy has done a review for us. This is a while back when this first came out in PDF. She really, really enjoyed it and was very, very pleasantly surprised. All right, so that is your look at Wrath and Glory, the core rulebook for the Warhammer 40K Roleplay. Let's swing on over to the other camera. I'm going to share some final thoughts as well as my review score. So when I reviewed the Ulysses edition back when it came out in, what was it, 2018, if I remember correctly, I liked it. I thought it was very cool. Once again, I have to point out, I don't have a huge investment in Warhammer 40K. My investment, especially role-playing game-wise, tends to be more into fantasy role-play. So WFRP, Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. That said, I liked the original edition. Yes, it had issues with it. It had problems. Once again, I am also going to be the first to point out, when I review role-playing games, I am not a super stickler on mechanics, because I have never run across a perfect role-playing game mechanically. And I happen to be one of these people who has no problem taking what I like, tossing away stuff I don't, and replacing it with something I do. I don't hold that against role-playing games unless the system is completely broken. That is certainly not the case here. Cubicle 7 Entertainment has really clarified a lot of things. They've cleaned up the presentation. They've provided more background information in this book. They have tweaked the system a little bit to make it more intuitive. One of the aspects I mentioned as we were paging through is the prior edition, you really couldn't create your own characters from scratch. It wasn't very easy to do that. Now you can. You can create whatever characters you want. But once again, you've got a ton of archetypes to work with as well. I love the artwork. The quality of the book is really nice. The production quality is excellent. It is top-notch. It's not something we usually have to worry about with Cubicle 7 Entertainment. Production quality is usually pretty high on their releases. I really like Wrath and Glory. I think it's very, very cool. I don't know if I would personally run the system, but that's just me. I would like to play in it. I would certainly enjoy being part of a group that's playing. I don't know if I'd necessarily want to be the game master for it, because there's so much background I would have to learn that I would feel comfortable with playing with other players, especially those who might have, quite a bit of knowledge about Warhammer 40K. That said, all in all, I really highly recommend Wrath and Glory. I give it a 9 out of 10 on a scale of 1 to 10. Of course, your mileage is certainly going to vary as well, especially if you're not too keen on a D6 pool system, or you were really looking for loads and loads of fluff regarding the Warhammer 40K universe. You might be a little disappointed there. Then again, if you are somebody who is brand new to the Warhammer 40K role-playing universe, this could be a must-own for you as well. All right, like I said, a 9 out of 10. I like it that much. Very highly recommended. That is it for this time out. Once again, let me remind you, if you like this video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. If you do, ding that bell, because it will not only let you know when I upload videos such as this review, it'll also let you know when my live stream, the Gaming Gang Dispatch, airs Monday through Thursday nights right here on YouTube as I bring you the latest in tabletop gaming news. And of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. And of course, as I've been wrapping up all my videos during this never-ending pandemic, let me hope that all of you out there are being smart and staying safe. Oh, you're still here. Well, if that's the case, if you'd like to subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel, by all means, click right here. And if you'd like to check out one of our recent live streams, click right up top. And if you want to roll the dice and see what the algorithm for YouTube recommends, click right here. And of course, thank you once again for watching. And gang, please stay safe and wear a mask.